Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today I'll talk about my final update for the Mortar Cannon Tactician. At this point, I have around 30 to 40 divines invested into the build, and I feel like it's in a nice, good state, and I'm going to talk about all the upgrades since last time we talked about 2 days ago. There's been some bug fixes with the recent patch that I'll go over and what that means for crossbows in general. One of the reasons I went with Mortar Cannon was that crossbows in general were kind of bugged with the weapon swap, which is now fixed, so I'll tell you about some of the alternatives you might want to respec into if you really do wish to, for example, go for a more self-cast playstyle. And if you want to keep getting the build into like 50, 100, 200 divines, I'll give you some guidance on that as well. There will also be a full build guide that kind of ties up all the updates, everything I've learned over the first week of gaming. So if you're kind of starting late or something, that will be the perfect video for you. There will also be a max roll guide for that. Now, let's go over the first bug. Fix the bug where reloading could fail on crossbows, most notably when weapon swapping. In case you guys don't know, this was the main issue for me when I wanted to go Galvanic Arrow plus Shock Burst rounds at the start of the league, and it was one of the reasons that I kind of got into Mortar Cannon. This has now been fixed, unfortunately, very late. I want to explore other archetypes as well, and Mortar Cannon has turned out great, but it is very unfortunate that something like this couldn't be addressed a little bit faster. I understand weekend and all, but still a pity. And the second fix was Defy 2, which didn't work with the helmet. If you don't know, Defy 2 makes it so you don't pay any mana, which was the biggest downside of being self-cast in any sort of capacity. So yeah, now that is also fixed. 6 days in, it is what it is. At least it is fixed. And yeah, this has implications for self-cast grenades, for example, for self-cast anything, because you now have your mana cost figured out. This does not work on totems, just so you know, but totems, you only have to place down once and then you never pay mana again, right? So they will literally fire 10 grenades for the price of just putting down the ballista once. Next up, the companion nerf. If you don't know, in the patch notes, they basically addressed the innate haste beast. It was not normal to get 25% movement speed. Fun is unfortunately still not allowed. There is a zone in the interlude on the right side, right in the Ashen Forest. When you go in, there is a zone where you can catch a very nice, fast wasp that will stay around you and let you keep up the haste aura as often as possible. This haste is unfortunately only 10% movement speed and 20% attack speed. Now, if you open the map right now, you can see this is where I got in. So right from town over here, there is a checkpoint where you will see a certain wasp, and I think it should be here. Yeah. Nope. There it is. Okay. So Froze Mandibles, you hover over it. You check if it has haste aura. If it doesn't, you do respawn at checkpoint. Confirm. And that brings you right over there to the checkpoint. You'll go down again. Make sure you don't kill it. And yeah, you just check over and over until it happens. For me, it took like 10 to 15 tries, but it's RNG. Also, if you've never done this before, you have to get a Tame Beast skill gem and then apply it to this guy and then immediately kill it, and then it will be soaked into the skill gem. That's kind of how you tame these beasts. To be fair though, I'm not 100% sure if the companion is actually worth it now because the reservation has actually gone up. Now, if you are not able to put your pet in anymore, you have to remove one of these support gems right here because yeah, they have different reservation. And at this point, this is a bug, by the way, it's not 24.9%. It is actually 50%. At this point, I'm not even sure if it's worth it anymore. So it's kind of a bummer for the build because it was a huge kind of a huge movement speed injection. Then we actually got good charms here. I think I paid 3 or 4 divines for this one. Fall of the Axe, it's definitely worth it. It makes it so your speed is unaffected by slows for a little bit, but it also gives you onslaught during effect. So for example, during the chilled ground maps or temp chain maps, you will really feel this one. Obviously, it's still a charm. It's still held back by being extremely low impact, but if you have the monies lying around, I would definitely highly recommend this. For the other charms, I went with Anti-Stun here and then also Rarity. Now, there's some super, super expensive charms out there. I'm talking 50 plus divines that you can look into, but that is currently what I got. To tie this up, which is also the reason why I didn't go for an Anti-Freeze charm, is because I now got Polished that gear, my 4th Ascendancy. It's taken me long enough. But yeah, it gives you 100% evasion as extra of ailment threshold. And if you hover over here, it will actually tell you how much it gives you. It is quite incredible. After this one, you're not going to really get ignited, shocked, frozen anymore. It will happen extremely rarely. So in my opinion, you don't have to invest into anything further, and it now opens up for armor, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And then let's talk about my biggest purchase, which I'm currently not sure if it's bugged. I need some further confirmation. I'm getting very weird results right now. I currently am back to just going for lightning pen, but I had them spec'd out. I tried it out, and in some situations it seems to work, but in others it doesn't. People have said they tested it with Doriani's and apparently it doesn't work at all. But then when I tested in maps with 40 monster res, all of a sudden I feel like I do like double the damage. So it should, I don't know. At the end of the day, if you want to buy this, do it on your own discretion. I paid like 18 divines for this one, and it's probably only going to go up. Maybe it's just me being crazy. Try it out for yourself. It resells extremely fast if you want to. Lightning attunement I'm gonna have in there for now, and like I said, I feel like in res maps it actually works, so then I put it in. But yeah, this is up to you. I'll have to do some more testing, and maybe GG can clarify on that. It was not in the patch notes, so I'm assuming a lot of people have this, so it works. Maybe my math is wrong, I don't know. Otherwise, there hasn't really been much change here on the Voltaic grenade either. Yeah, pretty much the same. With the fix of the reload bug, you could now ask, well, am I still using Wrath of Assault? I am. And the reason is that even though it is fixed, quote unquote, I can't put my finger on it, but it still doesn't feel right. I've played crossbows in 0.1, I've played crossbows in 0.2. I don't have any proof. I don't want to screw around with it, but I'll tell you that it sometimes jams, and it is goddamn annoying. So I'm just using Wrath of Assault still. This still means you have to more aggressively dodge roll, but as we figured out with the weapon swap on Mirage Archer, we can still have Mirage Archer up most of the time while dodge rolling around. So that's what it is going to be for me. If you want to try out, you can definitely go for a more reload speed oriented version. With that one, you would actually take something like efficient loading or maybe even reusable ammunition, or you just take nimble reload here instead of Rafas. You can test it out for yourself. Some people like Rafas, some people don't, and the changes are great. As for bosses, at this point I've completed all the breach stuff. I haven't completed the last one here, but mostly for the lack of trying. Same thing here with Simu. Ritual I haven't really done at all. It was bugged early game. So in terms of bossing, the build is pretty chill. I will say though that Arbiter is an absolute cancer fest because it is hard to see what's going on, right? Like you guys know, the build is very spammy. So knowing when he goes into his phase, the first one I blew up easily before he even could do anything. But after that, I mean, honestly, if you want to farm Arbiter, stay as far away from this build as possible. Unlocking part, fine. But if you want to farm it over and over at the highest difficulty, no. Oh, one more change I've made, and this is quite important, is get your levels up. I now have a level 20 mortar cannon and a level 20 explosive grenade. I will most likely also get a level 20 explosive grenade for my Mirage Archer. So look into that. It's going to be quite important. My Mirage Archer is still low level, but it really only changes the duration. I should also upgrade that. But yeah, just be diligent with that, especially in your mortar cannon, because it increases the resistances and increases the life of the totem. Now, I farmed quite a bit of currency in the last 2 days. Obviously, I bought the Rakiata, but I also saved up for what I want to play next, which I'll talk about at some point. But what if you want to stick with the build? Now, the first thing is the reroll bug is fixed. So if you are wanting to do some sort of galvanic shards, naming conventions in this game, with shock burst rounds, the reroll bug is fixed. You can now go for it, or just galvanic shards. There's some tech out there, right? Look out for that. You can go self-cast grenades, right? Or you can min-max the totem playstyle, whatever you want. I will say that in endgame, at some point, like, totems provide you a ton of damage for low, but at some point there is the clunk of having to wait, right? And if you have enough damage to one-shot stuff anyways, then why wait for the totems? So there's definitely an incentive to maybe like transition into self-cast at some point. But what if you want to stick with the totem playstyle? The first thing is armor. You could unspec out of solid plan and go for stay light, use cover. This one makes it so your armor is double as effective, but the maximum physical reduction is 50%, which is obviously a downside against small hits, but against the big hits where you really want it, it's going to be there. So what you do here is something similar to what Zizaran is doing. is you go for no evade chance at all. You will grab Iron Reflexes, which converts all evasion rating to armor, and then you will go for Glancing Blows. Do note that you will still want at least hybrid armors, so you can't use just the evasion bases. You will have to get new ones, and that's because you want a certain stat called percentage of armor also applies to elemental damage. This one goes up not that high. You don't want to use that one most likely. It goes, I think, to 50%. So yeah, it can roll on shields, it can roll on body armors. So you want as high armor and or evasion as possible and get this stat up, because then small elemental hits will also get reduced, and those will also get all the buffs from the Tactician right here that defend with 200% of armor. I don't know if it is actually capped at 50% or not, because it only specifies physical, but that's something you can find out. Important to note, if you go for Iron Reflexes, and what I just said is percentage evasion doesn't do anything anymore. This is not like PoE1 where you can double dip with evasion or percentage armor. No, at the end it says armor, so only percentage armor works. So you will respec out of the all of these wheels, and you will go for, first up, Tempered Defenses, which is super strong. It has more of that LE damage notable. It also perfectly fits into our Radius Jewel. And the second thing is you're going to normally connect over here and grab both Blade Catcher and Polished Iron. And you could theoretically think about getting Impenetrable Shell, although no, actually, you would only go for the small nodes if anything. But if you want to get a little bit more, you can also grab some small nodes here. But that would in general be the gist. I've heard from people that it's quite nice and it feels really good. You can just stand in a pack of mobs and whatnot. You don't have that thing like with evasion that you at some point just get hit and super unlucky and you die maybe. But there's also armor break in the game. So you will have to think about certain mob types. You'll have to think about certain map mods and so on. So yeah, up to you. The second thing is Headhunter. What can I say? This item is just simply ridiculous. It is now 60 seconds, so if you want a belt slot, if you're seeing people who are absolutely destroying, like obliterating the game in super juiced maps, do understand that if they have a Headhunter, they're like 4 or 5 times as strong. I'm not kidding you. People have been showing me. I've tried it out myself. I don't have one obviously, but I mean, you're like unkillable. It's basically like in PoE1, but on steroids. So like with every build, if you mapping, you want to get a Headhunter eventually. There's no change in this build either. Now, you would want to replace your Ami with a +3 Ami with Life and Spirit. This is up to you, but at this point, we do have 3 totems naturally. So the 4th totem is only 33% more damage. I will say that while mapping, it has been quite nice, but it is also more of a strain on mana because you have to put more totems down. I'm not 100% on board with it. And also look at the stats. It's completely like worthless otherwise. You can get +3 to projectile levels, which does an absolute crap ton of extra damage. You can get life resistances, and then maybe those resistances free up stuff like rarity on gear, which by the way, since we're on that topic, I would highly recommend getting a ton of rarity as well. It will literally change the way you perceive the game. And after that, level 21 gems, like I said, corrupt them. Get level 21s, try again over and over. Level 20 skills uncut, I think are like 140 exalts as of this recording. And then a better spirit setup. Like I said earlier, this spirit, I put it in because, I mean, it's still 10% movement speed, a little bit of attack speed, but that nerf that they did to this was pretty rough. But yeah, Mortar Cannon. Awesome build. The first few days were absolutely magical. How much damage this build can pump out on basically no gear is simply ridiculous. I will say that at some point, the clunk of totems, especially for people who don't like totems, will come in. And I was also at the point where I was like, should I transition? And then I figured out the crossbow bug was still there and they just recently fixed it. So it is what it is. But yeah, the phasing would be nice in the game. You have to play a different way. Corridor maps can be annoying, but the AoE and everything, performance obviously can be an issue. All of that, I think if I had to rate how they made Mortar Cannon, I think they did a good job. I would hope that in the future they reconsider some of the totem survivability. In the past, totems got scaled by levels, which meant you also had a level 30 plus totem, which is like they never die. Like they never ever die. I played Sunder totems in season 1 and a boss would literally not even scratch them. That's how crazy it is because it went from level 20 to level 40 and it gets multiplicative life each level. So that is something they would probably have to look at with how totems scale now. But I just love the skill because I thought they would make it in a way where you could only have it as like a single target steroid, a little bit extra damage. But no, it is actually main skillable. So I'm very happy with how this went. Hope you guys enjoyed the build as well, whether you stick with it, whether you respec into something else. I had an absolute blast. I will be putting out a full macro guide for this one. Unfortunately, it does take a little bit of time to do that, so it won't be out immediately with this video. I'll put it in the comments and in the description once it's ready. I will, once again, also make a video with all my thoughts combined. So yeah, that's about that. And yeah, enjoying PoE 2 so far. Don't have any plans of stopping anytime soon. Loving patch 0.3. And with that being said, because I still don't have a slogan. See you next time.